Everybody, welcome to Undivided. This is the third show, and it's the third show. Tonight we're welcoming Roy Stockton, who is running for City Council in Vacaville, District 1, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
As always, we want to thank everybody for coming and hanging out with us. I want to thank my brother Smitty, my brother Shannon, our sister
What's up, peeps?
Beatrice, who's not here today with us, but always here with us. Just want to make sure that everybody's being safe. Everybody is taking the necessary precautions. I want to thank all the first responders, even Roy, who just recently got back from helping putting out fires, a man of many talents that we'll see and we'll be talking about tonight. First off, I think we're going to go, we decided it's Shannon, Smitty, and then myself. I'll close it out. So without any further ado, Shannon, you want to go ahead with the first question?
Perfect. Roy, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. My question, and I've been thinking about this. We've had our conversations. When it comes, and we know the city of Vacaville. So when it comes to relationships and equity, how do you plan to go about building these relationships that show equity and equality, since the two are different?
Okay. So I'm glad that you said that the two are different, right? Because I think first we need to make sure that we are doing things as fairly as possible now, knowing that not everybody's starting from the same spot, right? You have folks with hundreds of years of obstacles in their way that are preventing them and have continued to prevent folks from being as successful as others who haven't had some of those roadblocks. So it's kind of a two-pronged, I guess, answer to that. I think that right now, education is the key, right? We need to make sure that we are going above and beyond to provide educational equality and equality of opportunity as it relates to education right now. And then we need organizations to fill in the gap, to stand in the gap and step up and say, how do we get caught up? How do we try to put policy in place where people who have been disadvantaged for a long time? I mean, how do we make that up? I don't know how fast that happens. I don't know the timetable for that because there's so many moving parts. But what I can tell you is the first thing is you can't be afraid to have these conversations. Okay. I say this all the time. I'm kind of a Simon Sinek nut. There are leaders. They have a position of authority. They get a nice title, right? But there are people who lead. Okay. And the people that I see in this room are people who lead, right? They're not just talking the talk. They're advocating for what they see as moving toward a more equitable society with equality of opportunity, searching and trying to get to that equality of outcome. Right? So I think that we need more people who recognize our history, that recognize the opportunities that we have today, and that are willing to seek out and help bring everybody up. Right? So education is key, right? I'm in law enforcement. And so I completely understand recidivism and people that grow up with difficulties and not having as much as others. And sometimes those difficult circumstances lead to problems. They lead to unforeseen things that even in my childhood, I didn't have to experience. But as a school resource officer, I could remember having kids and I'm like, why is this kid always getting in trouble? And then you go home and he's got an alcoholic father and a mother that's, in prostitution. And you're like, man, I'm just glad this kid's going to school. Like, I'm just glad he came. So how do we start to humanize some of the issues that are generational and how do we make sure we honor the history and move forward and try to catch people up. And I think that it comes with conversations like this, out of the box thinking. I think that work programs, I think the number one thing is education and employment. If we can find ways to utilize job training and education to get people into good jobs and have affordable housing to where people that work in a certain area can live in that area, I think that we can start to narrow some of those gaps. But it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, I think anybody that thinks you can snap your finger, wave a magic wand, and we're going to erase over 200 years of obstacles, I think they're in la la land. But that's not to say that we shouldn't try. That's not to say that we can't improve. One of the things in my case with my life is, so my biological father is white. My mother is Creole. I think that the more that we have acceptance and we are allowing our children to grow up with people that are different, we're starting to see interracial marriage, especially in California, is more accepted than in other parts of the country. And so I think that as we start that great melting pot people start to come together, I think that will help too. So I think it's about seeing souls, seeing people through a Christ lens instead of a skin lens. I'm a man of faith, and so I think that a lot of the issues that revolve around race that are negative, they're a sin issue, not a skin issue. I think that we need to see souls, we need to see people, we need to honor our history, we need to recognize that everybody's not starting at the same place, and then we need to try to stand in the gap, and fill those areas where we can try to help folks and bring them up. And this is where you do it. You have to demand it, right? You have to go to city council meetings and go, what happened to me was unacceptable. What happened to my son was unacceptable. What was spray painted on this wall or on this utility box is unacceptable. We're not going to stand for that as a community. I am not going to stand for that as a community. We have to be better than that. And if you have, and I've told this to anybody that talks to me about race issues, if you have one racist in your community, you have a race issue. You have a problem with racism. If you have one gang member in your community, you got a problem with gangs, right? So we have to stop making excuses when it comes to ignoring issues like this. And as a public official, you've got to step up. You got to say, that's wrong. I denounce that behavior, and we're not going to allow that in our community. That's the only way that you can fix it, is if you acknowledge it first.
Yep.
So hopefully I answered that question.
No, that was good. We let you go a little long on that one.
I'm
but
sorry, man.
Good.
I like to talk. Sorry.
No, but you know what? Honestly, that was a good answer.
Okay.
For as far as answers go, that was pretty good. So
thank you.
And you'll find if we like what you're saying, we'll let you keep talking.
Okay.
If for the most part. So, all right. So,
thank you, Roy.
Smitty.
Yeah, anytime. And we can always continue the conversation, no matter what.
Outstanding. First, welcome everyone for the third time, because Troy said it, good brother Shannon said it, so I'm going to say that. Raise up, welcome, give some respect where it's due on the native land that we currently occupy here, not only in Vacaville, but the entire Solano County. There was indigenous folks here with a civilized nation, a civilized way of being, civilized money, a civilized economy, way before Christopher Columbus ever stepped foot over here or anybody else. So recognize my good folks, my history. It's all good. Another one, Shannon, thanks for the shirt. Y'all can get these, they on sale. That's how we do. That's a plug for our own show. So on to the question. Mr. Stockton, thank you, sir, for joining us this evening. I know it was late notice again.
No, it's okay. I'm glad I was able to do it.
Thank you. And then, so my question is straight to the point. And it's not only a problem here that we face in the city of Vacaville, nor just Solano County or Northern California or California for that matter. There's a shortage of Black police officers. Now, I'm being very specific here, Black police officers. I'm not saying people of color, because lately that's a cliche topic, people of color. We want to group other people in with Black folks. I'm specifically talking about Black folks here.
Okay.
I don't know the current number of Black police officers here in Vacaville, but I know it's very low. Is there, when you become council member, and even if you don't, because you stated your role in law enforcement, is there a plan? Will there be a plan created to recruit Black police officers and retain them and let them work their way up to the police? I don't know how the hierarchy works. I've never been in military or anything, but the recruitment, is there a plan to recruit Black police officers, retain them, and promote them to positions of authority?
Okay. So this is more complicated than I think than that, but I'm going to do my best. Okay. So the reason why we cannot recruit, or the reason why we are having difficulty recruiting Black police officers specifically, is because there's a major distrust between the Black community and the police department. You can recruit all you want, right? You can pay money all you want, but if the community, if you're trying to get Black police officers to sign up, right, then you are going to struggle if the Black community doesn't trust the police. So it's kind of a vicious circle. It's a double-edged sword, right? Because the more Black police officers that you have, the more I believe the Black community will trust law enforcement by being fairly represented in law enforcement agencies, right? But I don't think it's that simple, right? Because trust is earned over time, right? You don't just snap your fingers and say, okay, today we're going to hire somebody simply based upon their skin color, right? No matter what it is. And so I think personally, the plan to hire Black police officers starts with conversations that build trust in the community between law enforcement. So one of the greatest things that happened in my career very early, I had a sergeant at my last agency, man, that I just wanted to get away from. And he's probably going to watch this, and smile, but it changed my life. Like, I believe God uses all things for good, right? And so I put in to be a school resource officer because I just wanted to kind of get away. And what ended up happening was I went from being someone that was like letter of the law on everything, because then you're not going to get in trouble, right? If you follow the letter of the law, not the spirit of the law, right? The letter of the law, you're not going to get in trouble, which means if you can write somebody a ticket, they're going to get a ticket, because if they broke the law, you write the ticket, nobody's going to complain that you didn't write the ticket, right? Some people will be like, why didn't you write that person a ticket? They broke the law. Well, so I had a teacher. And the teacher, she was an assistant principal. We're still good friends now. And she basically said, you need to stop being a jerk to these kids. Like, you might be the only positive police officer experience that these kids ever have, ever. And so you need to figure this out, because this is not working for me with you, basically, scratching every kid or busting them for, just for petty stuff. Like, I look at it back now, I was young, right? It was petty stuff. And so I made a conscious effort, right? I listened. She said, give me a couple weeks. And so I said, okay. So for the couple weeks, zero enforcement. And I realized that the kids were like, they're just kids, man. They're like, it's teenage years are such a weird time, right? Because they don't really know who they are. They want to be cool. They like girls. They like sports. They like other stuff. And, they got to go to school and they want to hang out. And they're still figuring out who they are. And so I actually got to know the kids. It got to be fun, right? And so there was a young Black kid that went to Fairfield High when I was there, that went from every time I would go by him, he'd spit on the ground as a sign of disrespect, right? He had negative experiences with police his whole life. So I made it kind of I wanted to see if I could get through to this kid, right? Could I make a difference? Was it possible? And so I found out what he liked. He wanted to play sports. He played basketball, right? And so what I figured out was, hey, he struggled with grades. He had influences at home that were good and influences at home that were tough, right? And so the kid, I invited him to study hall. So I was coaching baseball. I didn't go to study hall, so it was easier for him to go without me being there, but he went, right? He was eligible. He was able to play. So over the years, that barrier started to break down. So what ended up happening is we get a call one day, and we get a call that there's a group of black kids and Hispanic kids and a couple white kids at the park getting ready to fight. And somebody had a gun. So, you know, a police officer, I'm in charge of the campus, I go. We rally all these kids together. Have I told you this story before? Have I told you this? Okay. So we rally we kind of get everybody in a straight line, feet straight out, hands where I can see them, officer safety tactics, right? And I go down the line and I'm searching kids, and I get to one kid and I find a loaded 45 Beretta, one in the pipe, ready to go. And everybody is like, whoa, right? So I put him in the back of my car and I turn on a tape recorder. I keep going down searching, and then I get to this kid that is now I've befriended, right? He used to spit on the ground. Now we're friends. Now we're like, now he seeks me out and says, hey, you going to be at the game? Or you going to go, you know, you're going to be at the football game, whatever. I feel a gun underneath his hooded sweatshirt. It was a fully automatic submachine gun, basically is what it was. Scary, terrifying, right? But the kid hung his head and he said, I'm sorry I let you down. We'll put him in the car, take him to juvenile hall, because I had to take him to juvenile hall because of the gun. I went back, I listened to that tape. And the first kid said, man, we could have shot everybody. We could have got away, right? If we could have shot, we could have got away. And the kid said, I thought about it, but that officer was always nice to me. So I saw that kid a couple years after that incident. He came up, he hugged me. He said, man, I'm sorry I let you down, right? He felt like he let me down. And so what needs to happen in law enforcement, right, is we need to start seeing people as people, right? We need to take that extra effort to get to know kids, get to know their situation, and specifically in the Black community, right, where you have folks that are a single parent. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in other areas, but I think that, you know, there is a lot of people pulling on these kids for their attention, good influences and bad influences, which is why you need organizations and people that will advocate for these kids, that'll spend time, that'll do Boys and Girls Club, that'll coach sports, that'll do PAL leagues, that'll do the Levin, that'll break down those barriers so that we start to see each other as human beings and not just a black kid and a police officer, but as two people that are just trying to make progress. Because when he started to see me out of the uniform, and I started to just see him as a kid who just wanted to play sports, right? And it saved lives,
Mr.
right?
That's an incredible answer. And I fall always back to education through communication. And I think that's what you're trying to say, to, you know, as far as the advancement or even recruitment of Black folks. But I'm gonna thank you for that answer, so we can get to Troy's answer.
Okay.
This is a real quick
question.
Okay.
Question. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all right.
Great answer though. Thank you. I really do appreciate it.
No, good. A lot of I'm digging your point of view. It's honest, and it fits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I talk to a lot of politicians, and the political answers always bother me. But an honest answer from a politician is usually the tough answer. That tough answer comes with a lot of truths. Mm-hmm. It comes with a lot of sacrifice, education, and understanding. Mm-hmm. And that's what your story. I have a friend, you probably know him, a friend of mine, Dan Marshall.
Oh yeah. He was one of my training officers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's my boy. Yeah, that's my brother. And we talk a lot about, you know, about what we can do to help, what we can do to fix things.
Right.
From his side and from my side, you know, just the points of organizing, of getting out into community. And that brings me to my question. The idea of you running, is great, and I appreciate you for stepping out there.
Mhm.
So my question is kind of two-parted. One, what's wrong with Vacaville that you see that why you need to run?
Okay.
That's the first part. What's wrong with Vacaville? And I'm not going to ask you how you're going to fix it, because that's just that you should be able to answer that in the first part of the question. Well, that will tell us at least what you have planned. You know what? No, I'll just leave you with the first part. I'm not going to hit you with the second
Well,
part.
I'll try to answer both. Okay. So I think one of the things that I see with Vacaville, and I love Vacaville. So I always try to stay positive. So I'm going to try to keep this in a positive way. Vacaville celebrates its diversity, or they say they celebrate their diversity, right? They sign proclamations, they do this, that. We had nothing on Martin Luther King Day. Nothing on Martin Luther King Day. Vacaville has a tremendous opportunity to be able to honor that commitment, to be a community that celebrates its diversity. It's the various cultures here. Like, we have that ability right now if we just open up our hearts and open up the opportunities to celebrate those things. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I think that too much on our city council is about counting to the majority, right? So right now there's 5 city council people. You're trying to count to 3. With this new election, there's new seats, and now they're trying to count to 4. I think that as a citizen, it feels like there's not a conversation. There's a group that has a majority to make decisions that make them over and over again, but there's no conversation. And I think if we're going to build public trust and we're going to strengthen relationships within the city, there needs to be a conversation. You can't tell me that the same people agree about the same stuff all the time, right? And so one of the things that bothers me is that District 2 doesn't have a representative right now. So Mitch Mashburn, I have a ton of respect for Mitch. I've known him for a long time. He was elected as the board supervisor for Solano County, but it vacates a spot. We had a tremendous opportunity to give the citizens of District 2, a good friend of mine, Greg Ritchie, African-American business owner downtown, grew up with him. Like, he's my friend. We went to school together. He wants to support and be here for his city, and was denied that opportunity, right? And so some of the problems that I see are the mayor gets to make an appointment for a lot of things, right, to fill some of these vacancies, but also with our city commissions and committees, right? If we went to districts as a way to provide better and more equitable representation for our city, then I think that a way to improve Vacaville would be to make sure that those districts are also represented on commissions and committees as well. Because for the first time in the history of Vacaville, as far as I know and I'm aware of, somebody that actually grew up in District 3 in Brown Street is going to be on the city council. Whether it's Amber Robitaille or whether it's Michael Silva, both of them grew up there for the first time. They're going to have a voice on the city council. And so if we want people to trust our government and to do things that build unity amongst our community, we need to represent the community fairly, right? So we need to give voters the ability to elect their elected officials. We need to make sure that if we're worried about the parks in District 1, that we have somebody from District 1 on the Parks and Rec Commission. Or if we're dealing with planning and the future growth of our community and zoning for different building projects and stuff, we should have a representative from each district that's accountable to the people, that has to have these conversations. So what I would like to do is I would like to see I know in June they signed a declaration for the LGBTQ community. I think we should give, if the city means that, if they want to do something to show that we're accepting of all people, or the people that we've signed these declarations for, but of all people is what I would assume, then give them the opportunities to share their information about what it's like to be in their community or in their group. We celebrate Hanukkah in Town Square, which is wonderful. Why don't we utilize that Town Square, recognize an outstanding African-American community member to read the I Have a Dream speech on Martin Luther King Day, and remind people of how far we've come, so that we can see how much room we still have to make up when it comes to the Black community. But if we're going to actually try to make improvements, then we have to take the extra effort, right? Whether it's representation or whether it's the opportunity to give somebody a microphone and recognize major accomplishments in a variety of different communities. So I would support something like that. I would support working with the NAACP, working with Undivided, working with groups of people that want to recognize the advances in the African-American community or other communities that feel disadvantaged, and give them the opportunity to celebrate where they're at and where they've come from. So that people don't forget, and so that we can show our community that, one, we do celebrate our diversity here, and two, we're proud of our diversity here. Regardless of whether you agree or disagree, or where you are biblically, as a community that says they celebrate diversity, we need to show it more than we are. That's how I feel.
That's good. It's not bad. That was a pretty good answer. It wasn't too bad at all.
I talk a lot, so I'm sorry.
I want to reiterate before we close here and give you your time. I just want to reiterate what the good brother Troy said earlier. Hard to answer difficult questions, but when you answer them as honestly as you can, it's a little bit more easier to accept and understand and internalize, instead of trying to have to differentiate and move this piece of crap out the way to find out what this real piece of crap is. So, thank you for being honest. We really appreciate that.
We do. So this is your time.
Okay.
You to talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll address the people that are watching. I don't want to be just a leader. I have 16 more years to work as a law enforcement officer, to strap on my boots and go to work just like many of you, right? But what I do want to do is I want to stop this divide that seems to be growing in our community, in our county, and in our country. I'm not left. I'm not right. I'm not right. I'm not left. I'm interested in moving forward. And the only way that you can move forward is if you do it together. There's a lot of people that are running for different offices. I'm running for Vacaville City Council, District 1. One of the things that's important to me was touched upon in this conversation, in this question and answer stuff, is the fact that it's so easy to give cookie cutter answers, politically correct answers, to kind of beat around the bush or play it safe. We're not going to get anywhere with people that are interested in playing everything safe all the time. We need to have real conversations. We need to celebrate the opportunities that we have to come together and move forward. And so I appreciate this opportunity. I know hopefully somebody learned something new about me, right? I mean, I think for me, most of my family looks like the three of you. Honestly, my biological father wasn't a part of my life for 16 years. My mother married my stepdad when I was like 2. My mother's Creole. We came from Louisiana. Her side of the family is a product of chattel slavery. I can trace my ancestry back to a slave, and if Jim Crow was still in place, my son could not marry a white woman. And so you have to recognize these things that are part of our history if we're going to move forward and make the advances that we need to become a more equitable society, to be a community that celebrates its diversity, to be a community that doesn't just say that they want all people to have equality of outcome. We want to get everybody to cross that finish line, but to actually put the work in to get them there, to stand in the gap and do it. I'm someone that leads. I believe in law enforcement. I believe it in my core. I believe that law enforcement has a tremendous opportunity to represent and reflect their community. And it all starts with public trust. We talked about that. And it also has to deal with moving away from quantitative policing, where everything is about how many arrests you make or how many tickets you write, and move toward qualitative policing, which is one of the things that I think the Vacaville Police Department is doing well. I believe that the Solano County Sheriff's Office is doing well with that. And I think that other agencies are striving to be more like these two agencies when it comes to those things. But we can't be afraid to change. We can't be afraid to do better, and we should always try to do better. And I'm running for Vacaville City Council because I want to represent everyone. I say we are Vacaville, all of us, because we all are. And if we're not going to take the time to reach out to different subset groups within our community that create and form our community, then we're not going to get anywhere. We're not going to move forward. And so I hope that I can have more real conversations like this, that I can bring my knowledge of law enforcement to answer questions and to be somebody that can foster a conversation that leads to positive change, to positive movement, and builds public trust. That's what I want to do. That's why I'm running.
Excellent. Thank you. We appreciate you and the way you answered. Yes.
So vote for Stockton. Vote for Stockton. The ballot's just hit.
Stockton.
I need every
District
vote I
one.
can get. District 1?
District 1.
Yes, sir.
So, right on. I want to thank my brothers as usual, Smitty and Shannon, our sister Beatrice. Please check us out on LinkedIn, right, Shannon? We got space on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and Instagram. Get on there with some likes, and so we can get our algorithm going.
You got them all.
We have a lot of things coming that is just going to be ridiculous. But right now, we're trying to focus on our election that's coming up. Make sure, everyone, you get out there and vote. It's
absolutely. Your vote is your voice. Important. Your vote is your voice. And if you haven't filled out census, fill that out too, because we need to make sure everybody's counted.
I just got my mail-in ballot in the mail today, baby.
Did you really?
Are you in District 1?
No, sir. Sorry.
Oh, man.
Oh, you got yours?
Yep, I got.
I still haven't got mine.
Me and the wife just got it today, baby.
All right.
I'm still, I think, you know what? Hold on. We'll keep talking in a second, but let me close out the show.
Okay. Thank you again, gentlemen. Thank you, Undivided, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you, sir. Shannon, you want to stop recording?